All right, let's dive into a really fascinating and kind of provocative idea from our source material. What if the human brain isn't just a complex organ, but a miniature model of the entire universe? So, if I asked you that question, you might think of a distant galaxy or maybe a black hole, right? Well, the source we're exploring today says, nope. The answer is actually that 3-pound universe sitting right inside your skull. And its core argument is that we barely even scratch the surface of understanding what it really is.
And to really illustrate just how little we know, the author uses a powerful and, well, pretty classic metaphor.
You know it well, the iceberg. Everything we currently understand about the brain is just that tiny tip you see sticking out of the water. We can map its basic structure, we can track chemical signals, but the big stuff, the source of thought itself, or the actual seat of memory, that's all part of the gigantic, mysterious mass hiding just beneath the surface.
So, to give you a sense of the sheer scale of that hidden mass, the source throws out some numbers that are, well, they're truly staggering. They really help define just how massive this iceberg really is.
First up, 10 billion. The source says the brain has roughly 10 billion neurons. Now, to put that in perspective, that means there are more nerve cells inside your head than there are people on planet Earth. Just think about that for a second.
But here's the thing. The number of cells is only part of the story. It's the connections where the complexity just explodes. Those cells are linked by an estimated 10 trillion interacting pathways.
And then, what about storage? Memory capacity? The source makes the claim that the brain's capacity is a mind-boggling 1.2 million times that of a large-scale computer. I mean, these numbers are almost too big to really comprehend.
Okay, so with that incredible scale firmly in mind, this is where the source material takes a bold, philosophical leap. It starts to reframe the brain not just as a biological organ, but as something, well, something far more profound. The author calls the brain the epitome of the universe, and goes on to claim its laws match the laws of the universe. But what does that actually mean? Well, the source unpacks this idea for us.
The argument here is that the brain isn't just a part of the universe, it's a microcosm of the universe. It suggests the brain contains the wisdom of a creator, that it holds the history of time itself, and that it has the power to take what's imaginable and make it reality, literally creating things out of nothing.
Now, from these really grand claims, the author pivots to the profound gaps in our own scientific knowledge, arguing that these unanswered questions are actually pointing toward a different kind of truth.
I mean, think about it. When we look at a physical brain, we see biological matter. We see neurons, synapses, tissue, but the source asks a critical question. Where do the intangible things, like your first memory or the thought you're having right now, where do they actually live? And it keeps going with this line of questioning, probing the source of our rich emotional lives. We all experience joy, anger, sadness, but how do these powerful feelings just happen? How do they arise from simple chemistry and electrical signals? Then the argument points to our most profound human experiences. It asks how simple biological impulses can create something as complex and powerful as that intoxicating feeling of love or the pure ecstasy of a peak moment. So, after laying out this vast complexity and highlighting all these deep, unanswered questions, the source offers its own distinct explanation for the whole mystery of the brain.
And this right here is the crucial pivot. The author basically sets up a choice, arguing that if natural evolution seems insufficient to explain such a fantastic and intricate structure, then another explanation has to be considered.
So what's the alternative? The one offered in the text is what it calls the greatest creator. The source posits that the brain's immense complexity isn't an accident of nature, but is instead the result of an intentional, careful design.
And so, the source leaves us with one final, thought-provoking question. If you accept this premise for the human brain, what other great mysteries of our world could be seen through this very same lens?